Hello, everyone, and thank you so much for tuning in to the Let's Talk Purity podcast with Brittany and Richard Delamora. We're so excited that you guys are tuning in. This podcast, as always, is brought to you by Edifi.app, and we appreciate you for sharing our podcast on your platforms. We've been seeing you tag us, so please continue to do so to help us get the word out, especially today, because today we have a very, very powerful story for you. We have a man, I won't share too much because I want to let him do it, but Joshua is an ex-porn star who is now a pastor, a husband, and a father. And today he's going to share his powerful story with you. So Joshua, welcome. Thank you so much for being on our podcast. And my first question for you is, could you just start by telling us about your upbringing and why you decided to get into the porn industry?
Yeah, so I grew up in a very small town in South Carolina. My mom was 16 when she had me. And it was a weird dynamic because my father lived in the town that we grew up in, but he just chose not to play that father figure role. But in retrospect, it caused a lot of, what's wrong with me, like me internalizing a lot of things. But, just thinking back, he was 16. So, just a really tough situation to be in, but just really small town. So it made it awkward because literally I would see him in the grocery store and there was this guy that was my father that I didn't have a relationship with. So it was confusing, but man, my mom is amazing. And she always went the extra mile. Financially, we were never in a great spot, but I would have never known it. I always had everything else anyone did. I was able to go to basketball camps. I went to Disney World, one time when I was a kid. I did all these things World, I think, is in Florida. Land is in California. Okay. Yeah. So World, Disney World. But anyway, my mom made sure that I had everything. But I didn't have a father figure growing up. And that kind of led me to, I have a high achiever personality. And so it's just I felt like I needed to prove myself. Yeah. And it was because I felt insecure and I felt unwanted. So I just lived my life that way. I started modeling when I was around 14. I had a lot of success in the area. And I believed if I was in a logistical situation, that if I was, in LA or New York or Miami or wherever, I would have a better chance of being able to model, full time. Yeah. And instead of just doing jobs like here and there, like seasonal. So my second semester of my sophomore year, I dropped out of college and moved to LA. And I found very quickly that it was a more competitive market than I would imagined. I didn't have a lot of savings, so I had to get a job. Just like, I'm sure you guys are well aware, especially people living in the, the Hollywood, Sherman Oaks, Studio City area, everyone that works at a restaurant, that's what they do. That's not who they are. They're they're an actor or a screenwriter or whatever, but they have to supplement their income somehow. And that's what I was doing. So I was working at this restaurant and I was having some success, modeling and acting, more so modeling than acting. But I met a group of girls and they were like, "Hey, are you an actor?" And I was like, "Actually, yes." And I thought,
come on.
I thought I was going to have this opportunity because, in life, for me, having the opportunity to be on this podcast right now, it's we have a relationship, I know you guys. So we're having this conversation right now. So I thought, well, these girls know a director and it's going to be awesome. That's the first thing that I thought, because I grew up in the South and it's all about who you know.
Oh,
So it's just but they were like, "Well, we're talking about porn." And I was like, never thought about doing that. I never thought about doing that. I'd watched it, but I never thought about doing it. And they're like, "Can we introduce you to my agent?" And I was like, yeah, I guess. And like, I had in my head that I was going to go to this like sketchy, area. And it's going to be like, I don't know. I had this like idea in my head that I was going to go to this like motel and it's going to be this guy like in this room, like super sketchy.
Yeah.
But like I go to Studio City and I go to this, this agency, and I walk down this hallway and there's this guy sitting at this giant desk in a double Windsor tie, and he's bald, he's English, it's like, okay, what is this? And this insecure guy, like desperately wanting to be accepted and wanting to be known and wanting to have this, this list of accomplishments to fill this gap in my heart that I didn't know what would fill it. He told me everything that I needed to hear. He said, you can make X amount of dollars, you're a good looking guy, and there's not a ton of good looking guys in the industry. And you have this acting background, and like porn's making this transition to where there's a lot of like big movies, and you can have these parts and you can do all this stuff. And just like everything I wanted to hear, it's like, you can have everything you wanted, plus you can have sex with girls for money. And it was just like, I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know what to
like,
say. I don't know what to say. Like I envisioned this not going like that. And it's just so bizarre. Like, I could never, like, looking back at who I am and how my mom raised me, it's just like, I don't know how I got to the point where I would say yes to that.
Yeah.
But I think it just really paints a picture of like, everyone is vulnerable in a moment.
Yeah.
And for me, like, I was at a peak of insecurity and I saw an opportunity, and someone said, someone spoke to my weakness, and I was like, sure. Yeah. I'll do this one.
Wow.
And I don't know, like, I don't really remember like how that first one went. It was just like, I don't know. I remember getting a set. I remember like talking to like the director, and then all of a sudden it happened and it was done. And all of a sudden, like, I was in a car with the check, and it was just like, what'd I just do?
Wow.
And then I was kind of like hanging out with someone at the time at that like, so I was working at Saddle Ranch, so like on like Sunset, like I was working at Saddle Ranch.
Saddle Ranch. Okay, that is my spot.
The food is bomb,
hey, the food is incredible, right?
Yeah.
Okay, that is awesome. That's just like, I love Saddle Ranch. That's so funny that you just said that, man. That's the best.
But that's where I was working, this is like, but I was kind of hanging out with a girl there.
Yeah.
And so it's like, I was hanging out with a girl there. So like, I was like, hey, I did, I did a porno. And, she was like, what?
Whoa.
I mean, like, they pretty, like, very quickly told me to take a hike.
Yeah.
And I felt embarrassed. I felt ashamed. Like, I quickly like saw like, well, what I did was like a huge mistake.
Yeah.
And so I felt ashamed. And then we all had mutual friends. So she was she was much more successful in every capacity that, like, she was like one break away from like getting there, but she was really successful as a dancer. So she was on the dance team in college, and she worked at a dance studio, and she had been in multiple like music videos and stuff like that. But she was like, everyone loved her, and everyone hated me when I did that.
Wow.
So I quit that job. I was like, I can't go back there.
Yeah.
Like, I look like an idiot. I'm this terrible person that like hurt the girl that everyone liked, and we all had mutual friends.
Wow.
So I was like, well, I don't know. And then like the agent calls me the next day, and he's like, everything went well. I would love to like, sign you and you represent you. And I already got like 3 or 4 shoots booked up, for you if you want to do this. And like, honestly, guys, like, I felt like I did that one, that breakup happened. I quit my job. I said yes to signing a contract. I signed that contract. And then I don't know where 4 years went.
Wow.
Like, I don't like, and that's kind of how that happened.
Is that how long you were in the industry for? 4 years?
I was in there a little over 5, but like so I was dating someone for I was dating someone for a pretty long time, and then just like that relationship was like what really, like, I was already like dreading every single day when I would go to set. But then like I grew up the son of a single mom that was young, and my mom is gorgeous. So like guys are hitting on her all the time. So I'm always like, get away from my mom, So like already like had this like spirit of like jealousy. So like trying to navigate through being in a monogamous relationship, dating someone who is, doing very well in the porn industry, and now like exploring all these other things, and for me, like wanting to talk about it, like I want to bring this home and talk about it. And like I said no at first, but then like she like really wanted to do it, and like that was one of the most hurtful experiences that I can remember. Like all of it was hurtful, but like saying, yeah, let's talk about this, and almost like, I don't know, it just led into this like self-deprecating like behavior where I don't know, it was like almost like I was a masochist in some ways. Like I was okay with this being hurt, and I was okay with being humiliated, even though I wasn't verbalizing that's how I was feeling. And I like, and once I let that come into that relationship, it like my mental and emotional health was bad. And that went on for a year.
Jeez.
And I don't know how I hung in there that long. But yeah, so
I really
was
have
in
a
the
choice.
industry.
It's almost like you feel like you don't have a choice. You feel stuck because you've made your bed and now you have to lie in it. And all the lies that you believe when you're in the industry, how am I ever going to get a regular job? Who's ever going to love me? And all of that. And
what was crazy about that, in like that year, I won Performer of the Year. Like it didn't make any sense. Like I think it just really paints a picture of like how someone will see someone. It's like, oh, they must love it. It's like you're playing a character. And for me, like I had to like put on a facade because I was hurting so bad. Like I literally wanted to die. So it's just like, you're gonna see me like happy and joking around and like doing whatever, because I'm doing everything I can to mask how bad I'm hurting.
Exactly.
I like what you're saying right now, because so many times, people think, like, I get asked this question a lot and I can't speak to it because I'm not a man, but a lot of people ask me like, well, what about the men in the industry? Like, you speak on behalf of the women and the brokenness of the women, but what about the men in the industry? They must enjoy what they do, right? Because they're living, quote unquote, like that's the American dream.
It's like every man's dream.
They get to be with whoever they want, and they get paid for it. So like, speak to that. Like what was it like for you? And also, did you speak to any other performers that were in the industry that maybe admitted to brokenness as well? Like, it's not really the American dream, right?
Yeah, I mean, not at all. I mean, I think like that's like when you enter like talking about stuff like Caberjack, like you're like there's people that I knew who were using Caberjack, not like, so Caberjack is something that paraplegic people will use so they can be intimate with their significant other.
Is that the shot? Chemical, is that what that's called?
That's the shot.
Okay.
Right. So it's a
and
shot.
You inject it into yourself so you can have an erection.
Yeah. Right? So like literally people who have no feeling from the waist down use this, and it will work. So like it will work for anyone. So what it would do, it would take the mental aspect out of it. And and there's an amount of pressure as a male performer, especially because towards the end of my career, like I was asking $1,000 a scene. So like for some guys would be like 300, 400, whatever. But it's like a director is paying the girl, the director is paying, maybe the set, the boom guys, like the location, the, whatever else. The director's paying for everything, or someone is. And the only person that's not getting paid if the job doesn't get done is the guy.
Yeah.
so that's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
So then you have this relationship with these directors where it's somewhat friendly, but it's more like a coach that's like, I'm depending on you. And if you don't deliver, our relationship's over.
Wow.
So like that will, I mean, that's why a lot of people, like more people than you would think, like we're taking, like if not Caberjack, like something to that,
Viagra or anything.
Yeah, just something. And it's like this idea that it's this intimate moment. It's like, I mean, a lot of this for me, I think like is really like God really like 2 Corinthians like 5:17 for me is like literally brainwashed me, because like I cannot remember one like aspect of one scene, and I had nightmares up until that moment.
Wow.
So for me, I can't like I literally will like not like try to think about it, but it's like someone will say something, it's like I don't remember.
It's a blur. It's a blur, right?
And it was just like I was going through so much that it's just like who you're working with. It's like sure, like there's people that had no list, this and that, and things you wouldn't do, but to be completely honest, like whoever it was completely irrelevant for me. That's why like I think a lot of people get really upset with me, because it's like, you know, at the very end of my career, like I didn't want to do porn, but I looked at myself and I was like, well, I'm a prostitute. That's all I can do. There's no one that's going to hire me. I'm used up, so I'm useless. There's nothing that I can do with myself. I feel so ashamed about myself. I don't even answer the phone when my mom calls, because there's no way that she can love her son that does this. Like, that's how I saw myself. So when people are like, wow, you did gay porn, it's like, it didn't matter to me. Like I was working 20, 25 times a month. Like that was 20, 25 times that like I went home and sat in the shower and just prayed to the God that I didn't know, that I would just stop breathing. So it's like, if I can make the same amount of money to do that 3 times a month, I don't care if it's a guy, I don't care if it's like whatever. I could care less, because the act was completely irrelevant to me. And so that's how I saw myself.
There's a significant pay increase when you do gay porn, right? Is that so you could do less scenes but still make the same amount of money?
Yeah, I mean, like for me, like I had a very high rate, and I was doing between 200 and 225 scenes, you know, a year.
Wow.
And then for 30 scenes, I got paid the same amount for that for 6 months. What I would have made for a year.
Yeah. So in your reasoning, it makes sense, because you're like, I don't even like my job. I hate what I'm doing. So I might as well just go perform less, but then still make the same amount of money. Like that's where your reasoning was at that time of your life, right?
And I mean, it's like, and I think like for like, I have people who identify as homosexual that I love dearly. And then some people that it's so hurtful for them to hear that, but like that's my story. Like that's where I was. Like for me, like they're like, you're really gonna tell me you were never attracted to guys? I'm like, yeah. I worked with plenty of girls that I had like absolutely no attraction to, like even early on in my career. Like so it's like completely irrelevant to me. But that just goes to show you like where I was mentally, where it's like it was beyond, like it was never an intimate act. It was a business transaction that I needed to use drugs like to be able to do. So
that's very common though in the industry as well, where men will go from doing straight porn to doing gay porn. It's very common in the porn industry.
Joshua, you mentioned, you know, what drove you in the porn industry, from what I'm hearing, is insecurities, correct?
Yeah.
Was there ever a moment in the industry where you felt secure?
I mean, I think there were at times, because like I got to the point where like for the companies that I worked for, like I was the guy. Like I was the guy. So I was like, and I got to do like a lot of cool stuff. I got to travel all over the world. I got to do all the things that if you'd have asked me, as a 22-year-old getting into business, like, what do you want to do in your life? And it's like make a lot of money and travel all over the world and like, have a lot of sex. That's probably what I would have said. And I did all those things. And I think like while I was like in the beginning, it was almost like a placebo. Like I feel like I thought I wanted this. So there's this gratification, but that once that wave started to dissipate, all of a sudden I found that everything that I believed that would make me happy and everything that I believed that would make me feel valued and everything that I believed that would bring me this sense of satisfaction, the void in my heart was still there. And I was still broken and hurting. And I had no clue why in the world am I on this planet?
Yeah.
Who am I?
Come on.
In a world of 7 billion people, who the heck am I? And why am I here? And why do I feel so empty if I have everything that I thought I said I wanted?
Exactly.
That's so good.
And it's so funny because I think that's what the enemy paints the picture for us, right? You know, you get this in return, you're going to fulfill the void that's in your heart. You're going to be financially success. You're going to be celebrated. You're going to be loved. But at the end, you just feel empty. And I just think at times, if we're not careful, we have a legitimate need, but we fill it in an illegitimate way. And whenever you do that, man, it's just going to cause brokenness, heartbreak. And in all honesty, in your case, and especially with my wife's case, it's like it left you guys empty. It left you guys not being healed, and it left you guys broken. And I like that you talked about that because, there's people out there listening, right? And they're probably thinking, well, man, Joshua has the life, or, for you, Brittany, love, like, man, you have the life, you're loved, you're appreciated, you're on magazines, you're all over. But the reality is it didn't fill that void in your heart.
Correct.
When it comes to your upbringing, and you stepping in the industry, how did you break that to your mom and tell her, or did you not break her, or did she find out of nowhere, like, hey man, your son does, porn, like how did that conversation come about?
So the first two things I did was I shot for a really well-known men's magazine. So I shot for them, and then the company that I worked for, like, it was like really prevalent on the internet. But long story short, like, someone saw it, and then someone said something to someone else, and then, like, being in a really small town, they were like, someone told my uncle, and my uncle told my mom. So that's pretty much how that happened. So it's like,
and how was that conversation with your mother?
Tough. It crushed me, because, like, just thinking back to everything that my mom sacrificed, like things that so much more that I didn't even realize at the time, that she gave up so much so that I could have this life. And I feel like I just like let her down in so many ways. And but yeah, I mean, it was a tough situation, but never once did she say, I don't want to talk to you. She said, I raised you better than that. She said that, you don't have to do that. But she always told me that she still loved me. But like for me, like I like the deeper I got into, or the longer it went on, like I couldn't even hear that. Like she was calling out to me, telling me that she loved me, and like trying to call me out of that, and I couldn't even hear it.
What year was that, would you say?
When I got into
like
2007,
so
2006, 2007.
Like, did she hear that when you're like in the middle of your porn career, or was it the beginning, or was it the end?
Oh, it was like, I mean,
when she found
probably
out,
she found out like 2 weeks into, like, after I did it.
Wow.
Oh, that was quick.
Yeah.
Yeah. Word travels fast.
Wow.
I'm talking about, I mean, Richard, I like my hometown, like, we got Taco Bell like 2 years ago, and I think there was a parade. Like it's like that small. There's
So
like there's no hospital, there's no like mall. I mean, it's like there's two grocery stores. It's mad small. I think it graduated with like 100 people.
Wow. You know, when it comes to the porn industry, oftentimes, you know, people see it as it being glamorous, right? You guys, people see it as, you know, like,
living the life.
You're living the life, you're living the best life because you're doing porn. But behind the scenes, it's totally different. Joshua, what are some things that people might not know that goes on behind the scenes that people should know about?
Yeah, I mean, more than once I've been on set, and you know, girls would show up, especially like there was a certain company that I worked for that like I just don't want to praise any company, so I don't want to say the names, but they're just companies that would hire like younger girls. So it would be girls that didn't have a lot of experience, and like you could feel that they didn't want to be there.
Yeah.
And that like, and then sometimes if they didn't want to be there, they would, you know, they would be on, you know, they would be high or drunk or something, and then they would get sent home, or like, I don't know, just looking at someone that like like it's not as often as people would think, but it does happen. Like people feel like there's nothing else I can do but sell myself. And I think the biggest lie that people would ever believe that prostitution and that there is no line between. Just because it's on camera, like more so it blurs the line in that person's heart and mind. And all of a sudden, like that's why, like, when you consume porn, like, of course, like, you're gonna make decisions in your relationship, like, well, sure, it's okay to send this text or this DM or do this or do that, because all of a sudden, if I'm okay with consuming this content, it's telling my heart and telling my mind and telling my emotion that this is okay. So I've already blurred this line. So all of a sudden, like, I have confused my reality. And if all of a sudden that becomes my truth, I'm going to live if that is true. So if that's okay to me, then I'm going to do other things that's okay to me. And it's just a really, like, and that's how I was living my life. Where it's like, you know, I would do like photo shoots and like, you know, advocate for products and like do like signings and stuff. And I felt dirty, but for some reason I felt okay doing that. I would say yes when like no part of me wanted to do it. And just seeing like girl after girl after girl after girl, just like not wanting to be there, or showing up and being hammered and getting sent home, or, you know, a lot of times like contract girls that like, you know, it's like they're supposed to work this day, but they're just like absolutely like hammered or whatever, and it's just sad. And then just like directors like manipulating girls, where it's like, if you make, you know, do you want to make a few extra dollars? It's like, okay, we're gonna do this POV scene, and it's like they're not even gonna use it.
Point of view for people who don't know the porn terminology.
So I mean, this director is gonna say, hey, let's go like do a quickie in the back, and I'm gonna have this handheld camera, this footage that I'm not going to use. But it's just like,
it's just their way of hiring a prostitute, pretty much, you know.
But and also like, and then like, then people who don't know better, it's like they think, well, I got to do this because they're not going to hire me again. Or it's like, well, this is who I am, so I might as well. And like, unfortunately, like, I feel like that's worse. And that's where I was. Well, this is who I am, so I might as well. This is who I am, so what does it matter?
You learn to tolerate things that you should never tolerate because your standards just get lower and lower and lower. It's like the Bible teaches us that everything's permissible, but not everything is beneficial. And the more things that you allow in your life as permissible, the lower your standards get, the lower your value, your self-value, your self-worth becomes. And that's why it's so important that we have convictions and that we stand firm on them. And we don't allow people to come in and tempt us to lower our standards, because otherwise, that's how we end up. It's like all of a sudden, I don't know who I am anymore. I have no value, no worth anymore, because I just keep lowering my standards. I want you to tell us about, and I know you said your scenes were kind of a blur. So maybe if you remember, what was like your very last scene like? Like, do you remember what was going on in your head, and then what led you to follow Jesus at that point? Like what was your breaking point, industry?
Right?
Yeah. I mean, I think like I traveled to do because I would rather just do like, I had to do 3 scenes a month. Like that was my contract. And I would just try to do them like in like a week's time. So I would have like the rest of that month off. And I traveled and I did the scenes. I don't really recall them, but I remember doing them and just like, again, like taking, like after I would take a shower and just like no amount of like soap would like wash like the lube off of me, and just feeling disgusting. And like I remember so clearly that the last scene that I did, I'm laying in bed and I'm thinking like I want to die. I don't have the guts to kill myself, but like, how would I do it? And this is the conversation that I'm having in my head. It's just like, I just don't want to live anymore. I don't want, like, there's no future. There's no one that's going to marry me. There's no employer that's going to hire me. What am I going to put on my resume? Like, who am I? Like, I'm absolutely useless, but gosh, I would rather die than continue living the life that I'm living.
Come on.
And then the next day I had that check, and then I was going to deposit the check into the ATM, but the ATM was broken, because I would always put it in the ATM because I was embarrassed because of what was the memo would have on the check.
What was the memo?
What would your memo say?
I mean, I don't know. It would always
have the porn movie title on it, stuff like that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. I mean, and sometimes, like, especially if you're working for some like directors, that they would name their movie just ridiculous things. So it would just be like,
oh, got it.
It would be creepy things. It would be crystal clear. Oh yeah, like it would be absolutely clear, like what that check was for. But so I would always try to like put in the ATM, but the ATM was broken. I went inside and I handed the check to the person, and they deposited it, and I was leaving. And then as I was leaving, which was weird, they said, "Joshua, is there anything I can do for you?" And I was like, I mean, I already have my receipt. Like, I'm okay there. Joshua, can I help you? And just like, I get like chills. Like I have like, it, because like, I had gotten to the point where, especially when when I decided to start doing the gay films, it's like any like sense of like normalcy, even like as bizarre as my life was, like any sense of normalcy, because I always worked for the same directors, and I was a bit of a hermit. I never went out and partied really unless I was being paid to be somewhere. I just like kept to myself. So now those directors and people that were normally in my life, like I was like on this island. So I wasn't interacting with one person that was calling me by my real name. Like I'd stopped talking to my family, my friends. I had unfriended everyone on Facebook. I did not hear my name. And then when that bank teller said my name, it shattered what was my reality, and it just freaked me out. Like at the time I was living in Sherman Oaks, like at the Galleria in Sherman Oaks. So like where the Cheesecake Factory is, like I lived in those apartments there. And I like ran across the street from that Bank of America, and I was just like freaked out. And then I get home and I washed my hands and I looked myself in the mirror and I just lost it. Because like when I looked up and saw myself in the mirror, I didn't see that actor anymore. I saw Joshua Broome, and it just absolutely crushed me, because in that moment I thought about how it had been months since I talked to my mom, and how scared she probably was, and how bad she was hurting. And then I started thinking about, like, you know, my brother had graduated from college and, you know, got his dream job, and I wasn't there. And he went through a tough breakup, and I wasn't there. My mom got married, and I wasn't there. That person died. His appendix ruptured and he died. I wasn't there. Like, all these things happened and I should have been there. I should have been there for my brother. And I should have been there for my mom. And I'm looking at myself and I'm so caught up in how bad I feel about myself. I wasn't there for the person that sacrificed everything for me. And that just absolutely crushed me.
Jeez.
So in like, after I wept and wept and wept, I picked up the phone and I called everyone that I needed to call. And I was like, I'm out. And I actually knew one of the agents that I used to be represented by, and I called him and I was like, do you want to take over my lease? I was like, I'll just give you all my stuff, give you all my furniture, everything. I'm just going to take my clothes. Will you just like promise me to pay the rent? And within days I was gone.
Wow. And what led you to Christ?
So like, I wish I could say I responded to that in that moment, but I didn't. I spent 2 years lying to everyone I met. I spent 2 years saying, yeah, I was in California, but, you know, I was just doing whatever, you know, I was just doing this stuff, just, you know, whatever. And I started working at a gym, and they asked me a lot of questions, and I was like, you know, I did a little bit of acting, whatever, you know, don't Google me, please. But, you know, just, just
please, did you tell them not to Google you?
Yeah, I think I may have said that.
That's them. They're gonna run and Google you.
Yeah, I know, right?
Yeah.
Think of any color but red.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, it was days before like everyone knew, and then you know, I was I moved to this place, so I went home. I ran on my mom for a few weeks, and then I ended up getting a job at a gym, and that happened. But still, I spent 2 years just lying, and it was, and I was lying about things that I didn't even need to lie about. Like it was beyond like me lying about, like I was lying about like my relationship with my dad. Like I didn't want, like, it was ridiculous. Just like I was so, I don't know. It's hard to explain. It's like I felt so ashamed about who I was and what I did, that like I just wanted to just pretend that I was someone else.
Yeah.
So I just tried to sweep it under the rug. But like the things that didn't go away was my mom's work ethic and how she taught me to love people and care for people. And it's just like, I have a huge servant heart. So it's like, I love fitness and I'm working in this gym, and I want to, you know, it's like, this is what I want to do. This is what I want to do. So I'm going to work my way up. And then it didn't take me very long. I worked my way up to management. And then I had an opportunity to take over as a general manager at a gym. And then that was going great, and everything was going great, but still it's like I literally had these like night terrors because I was like dreaming about who I was. And it was like every new person I met, I was like, do I tell them? They're going to find out. I was just so sick of just lying and then being found out, lying and being found out. And I was trying to date people, and then they would find out. Just like, it just this ongoing cycle. And then this like smoking hot girl comes in this gym, and I tried to like put her gym equipment away like after the workout, and she's like, I can put my own things away. I was like, whoa. Sorry. I think I love you. You know, I was like, but I was like, can we like hang out? Can we go on a date? She was like, well, we can go for a run. I was like, okay, we'll go for a run. And that run turned into a walk. But on the way there, I just had this like gut, like, I don't know, it was like nervousness because like I don't want her to find out this stuff about me, but like, gosh, she's just so gorgeous and so perfect. I was like, I can't hurt this girl because I had hurt so many people because of lying and doing all this stuff. I'm just like, I can't hurt this person. Yeah. I won't. So I was like, look, before we hang out, I gotta tell you something. I did a little bit of porn. She's like, what? What'd you say? I was like, okay, I've done a lot of porn. And then like, it was almost like you just like you were trying to like crack open a soda and then it just like erupts. That's what happened. It was like, I was like,
did you do this on your first walk or was this?
Yeah. It was.
Whoa, you just like threw it out there. Boom.
But it was like, I've been suppressing this for so long. I mean, it was a therapy session, you know. It was like, I told her stuff she did not want to hear. Yeah. And it's like at the end of it, she looked me in the face, and after telling her like just like obscene things, like spending a good 5 minutes, like, this is how bad I am. You need to know how bad I am. Her first question was, do you know who God is?
Oy, and I was like, come on, somebody.
I was like, yeah, you know, like, I believe that God created everything and like created me. Like, yeah. It's like, well, do you have a relationship with him? I was like, what do you mean? What do you mean by that? She's like, well, do you have a relationship with God? Like, do you have a relationship with him? And I was like, I don't know the answer to that. And it was so loving and so like, she's like, well, like the person I see in front of me, you know, you're a really good coach. You care about people. You seem like really polite and kind. So it's like, if that's something that you did, that's not who you are.
Hey, come on. That's a word.
That's so beautiful.
That's a word right there.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then we collectively decided to go to church together. Wow. I was like, you know, she like, it was like the most perfect, like, for me, I always think of Colossians 4:6, like, let your speech be gracious and seasoned with salt, so you might know how to answer each person. So it's like, man, she approached me with such grace and elevated me at a time where I thought like I deserved to be, you know, on the ground. And she created this like healthy skepticism. It's like a relationship. Wow. I was like, man, I was like, me, a relationship? Like, I'm like really broken and really dirty and really terrible. I don't know. And then we go to church, and man, and the pastor was bringing the heat, and he was telling the story about Mephibosheth. And it is like
being dropped.
Yeah, he was dropped, and then all of a sudden this guard walks up to him, and you know, he is like, okay, you know, I've been hiding. You know, when someone else becomes king, you know, I was in the prior family. Someone's gonna, you know, I'm gonna be killed. I deserve death. And he didn't get death. The guard extended his hand and brought him to David's table and set him at the table, and not for a day, not for a week, but forever. And all of a sudden I heard the gospel, and I was like, Jesus does love me that much. Jesus did die for me. This is available for me. Like, Jesus didn't like die to make bad people good. He came to make me alive. I was dead and now I'm alive. So it's just like, in that moment, like an absolute mess, just like crying, like probably like I don't know. I was a mess. Come on. But just let go of this shame and this weight, and not just from the porn, from my whole life. From this weight that I'm not enough. And it's like, you know, I don't have this father. I wanted this father so bad. I just wanted this father to love me. It's like, you do. You do have a father that loves you. I love you so much. I love you so much that I was willing to sacrifice my son so that we could be together forever. I was like, wow.
Yeah.
That's so beautiful.
And who is the girl? And the girl that
is my wife.
You're talking about, is your wife.
Yeah.
Is your wife.
So
Come
good.
on. And her name is
Hope.
And she gave you hope. Let's
hope.
go.
And ironically, the church was called Hope.
Wow.
That's beautiful.
That is so awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, your default mic changed a bit. Hold on. Could you hear us?
Yeah. All of a sudden I thought it was. I just heard like you were just saying something on repeat all of a sudden.
It was just a little pause. My utmost apology. How long have you and Hope been married?
July will be 5 years.
Come on, that is amazing. 5, the number of grace. Let's go.
Yeah.
Question. For me, when I started dating this wonderful, beautiful woman of God, you know, there was times where her and I talked about her past, and I would talk about her past just in case somebody tried to throw her past against me. And I had people throwing photos, videos at me of her past, and et cetera, et cetera. My question for you is, did that ever happen to Hope?
Oh, so it happened on the worst of times. So the day that really, so just to kind of set the stage. So we start dating, like within 6 months, we're engaged. I immediately get plugged into the church. There's this just really God ordained something really cool. So this guy Andrew had moved from Texas to plant a church, to plant another campus, and he and his family were there, but the campus wasn't ready to launch yet. So he had a lot of free time, and I went to the executive pastor's office. I was like, hey, this is my story. I really just want to I'm passionate about life. It's like the way I grew up, it's like if I love something and I have access to something incredible, it only makes sense for me to offer it and extend it and want to give it to someone else. So that's just who I am. Yeah. So I was like, how do I do this? Will you help me? And he introduced me to Andrew, and Andrew taught me how to read the Bible. It taught me how to teach people how to read the Bible. And so we went through this beautiful process. So I'm interning at this church for a while, and then Hope and I get engaged, and we get married, and everything is going incredible. And I've been interning at this church for a while, and I'm interviewing for a job there. And it's a great church, but it's very thick, like SBC, church, so it's like, are we going to hire this guy? I don't know. We love him so much, but there's politics. But anyway, so Hope and I, we find out we're pregnant, and then enough time goes by where we find out the gender. And the day we found out the gender, we were so excited. So we do this cute little post on Facebook.
Come on.
We posted it's a boy, so excited. And then within minutes of me posting that, my phone's just going crazy. Wow. And someone had created a fake profile of me with my picture and took the time to send video and pictures to every single person that I was friends with on Facebook, which was over 4,000 people over that entire day.
No way.
Including my wife's sister, my wife's parents, my mom, my brother, my entire family, everyone at that church, the gym that I was running, on the gym's page, everywhere.
Terrible.
Yeah. So that was
how did Hope do with that moment?
I mean, she I don't know. I feel like she's not.
Was that her first time ever getting that?
Yeah, I mean, that was the first time that my past had directly impacted her. Yeah. And I think in that moment, she's like she has a heart of gold, and she's so athletic, and she's gorgeous, and she's like a great teacher, and she's all those things. But man, she is more resilient than any person I've ever met in my life.
Awesome. I love
And
that.
she and her faith allowed her in that moment.
Yeah.
That hurt bad. Because that hurt, because it was a beautiful moment for us.
Yeah.
But in that moment, she looked at it and she said, not today, Satan.
Woo, let's go.
Not today, because that is not who you are. You will not steal that moment from me. And I think in life, it's like every single day, every single time something happens to us, we have the option. We can either react or respond. We can allow our circumstance to cause us to react, or we can respond based on the foundation of who Jesus is.
That's so good.
So it's like, yes, it sucked. Yes, it was hard. Yes, it pissed me off. Like, I was angry.
Yeah.
But she responded with grace.
That is so amazing.
And it's like, I was terrified. I was like, what's going to happen?
Yeah.
But
when, on another note, that's beautiful, by the way. Hope, you're amazing. We got to get Hope on the podcast too.
I know. I told him.
I would
amazing wife. I love her.
I would love to talk to Hope, man. She just sounds like an incredible woman.
So powerful. So amazing.
Joshua, when it comes to pornography, oftentimes people think, what's the big deal with porn? There's nothing wrong with it. I'm not hurting anybody. I'm not affecting anybody. It's privately to myself, for the married man or the married woman, they might say, well, I watch porn so I don't cheat on my husband or cheat on my wife. What's wrong with pornography? Mm-hmm. What would you say to someone like that who has that perspective and point of view?
Yeah, I mean, I think that, like, on two separate lenses, like, let's say that you're not a Christian. Well, there's still exponential data out there that is very clear that it has a dramatic impact on you mentally and emotionally. And it's like, when you start to look at a person like an object, you naturally are going to objectify them. And if you can look at a person on a screen and treat them like an object, what is that going to do with you, how you treat your wife, how you treat your children, how you respond at work? Because your behavior, it's not, I mean, it's like what you do in private is who you are. And it's just true. It's like, we don't want to say that, because that's that's taboo, and that's that's going to hurt feelings. But what we do in private, it's true. So if I'm willing to say that that's okay, then I'm creating this false sense of reality. So something else, like the probability, again, like, there's a huge correlation with people who struggle financially and have financial debt and cheat on their taxes and, like, do things they shouldn't do, because you've blurred the line of reality. Because you seeing a person on a screen and saying it's okay for me to objectify you, and then to lie to myself and say, well, it's not a big deal.
Yeah, exactly.
It is. It is a big deal, because you're taking something that's supposed to be beautiful and loving, and you're turning into something else. It's like love gives and lust takes, and what it's taking from you is your perspective of reality.
God, that's so good. Also, Joshua, not only you're a powerful man of God, you're well versed. I love that about you, but obviously you go to church, and often we read the statistic in church. It says that 50% of pastors watch pornography. 7 out of 10 men in the congregation watch porn. 3 out of 10 are women. What do you think we can do as a church in whole to be able to help this issue of pornography? Because the statistics keep getting higher.
Right.
And it almost seems as if this is this taboo, elephant in the room that's there, but no one wants to address. What do you think we can do better in tackling this subject of pornography?
Yeah, I think that people will, I think the lie that people are believing is that people in general, men and women, are over sexualized, and that's not true.
Yep.
We're actually really terrible at dealing with problems. And what happens is we have pain and we mask it. And what we mask it with is porn. And what we're saying is like, I don't want to feel this right now. So I'm going to take this placebo and I'm going to put this mask over my pain. But all of a sudden, if I wear this mask for so long, then that's just who I am. And I see myself as that person, and everyone else sees me as this person. So now I have this weight that I'm carrying around. It's like I have to play this role. I have to make sure I get enough likes on Instagram. If you're not liking me, then I must not have any value. Then I feel bad about it, and then I feel, it all goes back to the garden. In Genesis, in Genesis, they were walking, they were naked, there was no shame, and all of a sudden there was sin, and all of a sudden then they were hiding, and they were guilty, and they were ashamed, and and they were covering up, and it's like that's who we are. It's like we are ashamed, we feel guilty, we want to cover up, we don't want to deal with it, so we want to cover it up, and I think that's the issue. The issue is people don't like to talk about their problems because God forbid me have a problem. Like Richard, I can't tell you that I get angry at my kids because I'm supposed to be the perfect parent. I'm a Christian. I can't get angry. I can't get mad at traffic. I can't do this thing because I'm supposed to be perfect.
Yeah, it's so true.
And I have this this filter over, on myself that I'm supposed to be this person. And when I don't live up to my own standards, I'm just going to feel like, well, I must not be good enough. And I'm just going to medicate. And I think to answer your question is, how do you defeat pornography as a person? You need to have relationships with people where you can have honest, open, transparent conversations. It's Absolutely. Like, I'm hurting. I'm struggling in this capacity. And like porn addiction is real. It's real. It's a real thing.
It's so prevalent. Yeah.
But it continues to grow because it's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. It's not a big deal. People believe that lie. And then also it's like we live in a society where it's like, I can't say that I'm struggling because then I look weak. And I gotta live up to this standard.
Especially if you're a pastor or a leader, right? Exactly. If you're a leader going through it, oh my gosh, So
it's like, so it's like, oh gosh, like this guy went to counseling. Oh,
he's not all there.
And it's like, and it's for me, it's like even within the church where it's like, well, we want you to have experience. Oh, but you went through that. You might not be able to deal with this. We don't want to put you through that. Because we want to protect you. Where it's like, man, we're all broken.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
So
like my brokenness is tangible and you can find it, but that doesn't make me any different than you.
Come on, that's such a good word. And I know I had leaders, like when I first started sharing my testimony and stuff, they were like, you shouldn't do that, whatever their fears were, that I was suddenly gonna leave the church or tempt people or whatever it may be, right? But it's like, no, like my story, our story, your story, everybody's story, right? Whatever you've been through in life, it brings glory to God. So don't stop sharing your story, because not only do you bring glory to God, but you set people free from whatever they might be facing, whatever shame or defeat they may be facing. So just don't stop sharing your story. We have a question that we ask all of our guests, and the question is, how do you guard your heart? Yeah.
I mean, for me, it's like I have an accountability partner that weekly we'll have it seems systematic, but for me it's like that works. It's like, how are you doing professionally? How are you doing relationally? And like, how are you doing spiritually? And it's just this space where we call it a hot conversation, right? So
honest, open, and transparent.
And it's like in that situation, we're like, he's gonna like check me on my BS.
Yeah.
Where it's like, how are you doing? I'm like, I'm good. It's like, come on.
Yeah.
You know, it's like, because me, if I'm not running my mouth a mile a minute, like Hope will tell you in a heartbeat. It's like, if I'm quiet, something's wrong, you know? So it's like, I mean, just having people in your life that you can trust. So it's like, and it's just like, you know, setting appropriate boundaries. Like for me, like I've grown in a lot of aspects. Like for me, like I was really, really, really broken. Like for me, like you know, everyone needs honesty. Or it's like, okay, you need, if you want to stop watching porn, you or step out of like the mindset of like you are an escort, or you're doing porn, or you're doing OnlyFans. Like, my God, like, please do not believe the lie that OnlyFans and doing porn are different, because they're not. But like, how do you step out of that mindset? Like, how do you step out of that mindset? Well, you have to be honest first, not just with people, but yourself. Because if you justify it, you'll go back to it.
Oh, that's a good word. That's a word.
And then secondly, you have to set boundaries. And that's going to look different from person to person. Like, there's a lot of great options for, as far as like software, like why not set boundaries? Like, I don't let my kids touch the stove because they'll get burned, you know? So it's like, why not set boundaries for myself?
Come on. That's
so
good.
So I have preventative software on my phone, because I don't want to come across something, because it's so easy to do that. And then also removing triggers. And I think that is something you really need to know yourself. Because for me, like, I mean, to be completely transparent, like for me, like I had to be like, I was like so hurting and so broken and like so like messed up mentally, where it's like I had to like make sure that I had to like use a loofah. Like I like refused to touch myself. I couldn't, because that would like set me off. And it's like I had to go through that. I had to like go through like I have to shut my phone off and be away from it like at 9 o'clock or something like that. Like I had to go, like I had to like like an addict, you know, like I was like really, really broken in that way, where it's like I had to just remove myself from any temptation possible. So for some people, it's not going to be that extreme. For some people, you're going to have to take an inventory of what do you watch on TV? Who do you follow on social media? Like for me, that's something that like there's sometimes like I'll follow someone and then they'll post something that's sketchy, and it's like, okay, I'm gonna have to bounce,
unfollow.
But it's like for me, it's like why? It's like, is it that big of a deal? It's just that one time where it's like, well, I my purity and my wife and my calling is more important than that moment.
Hey, let's go.
Come on, you said it right
mic.
there.
Drop the mic.
So it's like, and it's like, is that easy? No.
Yeah.
Well, like, and I think like for me also, as you're going through this process, like I just kept going back to John 19:30. It is finished. Hell, death, sin, and the grave is defeated, because Christ in me is stronger than anything else in the world. So it is finished. It is finished. It is finished.
Come on.
So meaning that when I screw up, I don't start over. I pick myself up and I dust myself off, and I keep moving forward, and I celebrate the fact that I'm making progress and I'm not the man that I used to be. And I think like that's how people, like for me, like I think like that was, if I could tell myself something like long ago, it would be that. Because it's like I would stumble and I would be like, oh, it's like, you know, a diet, or it's like, oh, I ate pancakes for breakfast, so I might as well, you know, eat cheesecake for lunch, and you know, whatever. You know, it's like this mindset where it's like I already messed up, so and I think people will quickly have that mindset. Like I talk to a lot of like young guys where it's like, well, you know, I was doing great, and then I messed up, and then I went on this like 2-week bender. I was like, wow, because like you get in this mindset where it's like I screwed up, then I just start over. or I have access to sin because I'm just broken now. So I'm just like, it's like, you're not who you used to be.
Yeah.
So good.
Like,
that's
his
so
grace is sufficient. So it's like, man, just get up. It's like,
come on.
And dust yourself off and keep moving forward.
Keep moving forward.
I love that. That's such a good word. If you don't have a vision for your life, that is so important that you get a vision. Joshua was saying that like everything, every decision that he has made has been in aligned with his decision. So he was able to say no to temptations because he had a vision for his life. So if you're watching porn and you want to stop, that's one powerful tool that you can take today. What is your vision? Why do you want to stop watching porn and now make decisions that are aligned with your vision? You guys, we are so grateful that you tuned in today for an incredible, powerful episode of Let's Talk Purity. If you want to follow Joshua Broome on Instagram, it's I am Joshua Broome, right?
Yep. That's right.
And then do you have a website?
I'm working on it.
It's in the making.
No
it's
worries. Follow him on Instagram. I am Joshua Broome. And thanks so much for tuning in to the Let's Talk Purity podcast. We will see you next week.
Joshua Broome, we appreciate you, man of God. Thank you for joining us.
Absolutely. Love you guys so much. I appreciate you guys.